ní ìbẹ̀sọ̀mú tó 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 láyíwọ̀lá àkọ́bí adé nìran tí ó jẹ́ gbèsè kó gbèsè ní aláhàrù tó lóhùn ó kọ̀ọ̀pá lẹ́jọ́ yóò jẹ́ gbèsè kó gbèsè ní tó 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 láyíwọ̀lá àkọ́bí adé nìran bàbá rẹ̀ lórí ẹ̀ ìwọ máa rí máa yọ bàbá rẹ̀ lórí ẹ̀ tó 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 láyíwọ̀lá àkọ́bí adé nìran ọ̀rọ̀ wa ló dé sí ìwé bẹ́ẹ̀ kọ̀ọ̀kọ̀ọ̀kọ̀ tẹ̀sùn ẹ̀wọ́ ọ̀rọ̀ wa ló dé sí tó 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 láyíwọ̀lá àkọ́bí adé nìran ìdí ẹ̀kún kọ́ lẹ́wà ọ̀rọ̀ tá a sọ lóko òní bàbá rẹ̀ ìdí ẹ̀mí kọ́ làwà tó 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 Adéyẹmí ìdí gẹ́gẹ́dẹ́ ìbò àlówó lónìí ìbò ìbò àlówó lónìí ọba tó ọba tó ọba tó ìlú ọba ní ọba ọba tó 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 láyíwọ̀lá àkọ́bí adé nìran ọ̀rọ̀ ọjọ́ mi ní àbúrò ẹni tó lóhùn làpá ẹni ọ̀rọ̀ ọjọ́ mi ní tó 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 láyíwọ̀lá àkọ́bí adé nìran ọ̀rọ̀ ọjọ́ mi ní àbúrò ẹni tó lóhùn làpá ẹni ọ̀rọ̀ ọjọ́ mi ní tó 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 láyíwọ̀lá.
His Imperial Majesty Aláyélúwà ikú bàbá yèyé ọba Dr. Lamidi Àtàndá Ọláyíwọlá Adéyẹmí nìjọ. Alaafin of Oyo and permanent chairman Oyo State Council of Obas and Chiefs. Your Royal Highness, the representative of the Ooni of Ife, Ọba Tadenikawo Láyàdé Alára Òdáyé Aralan in Ife. The representative of Chief Afe Babalola, Dr. Lekan Are, my ever-revered Bishop, the Archbishop Ayoladigolu, the chiefs, baales from Oyo land, Professor Toyin Falola from the University of Texas, Professor J. Laurent Maturi from Duke University, USA. Most welcome. Ekabo. The members of the Board of Trustees of Center for Black Culture and International Understanding, the former SSG during my administration in Osun State, Honorable Kazim Adio, the DVC, Registrar, and other staff of Ajayi Crowther University, distinguished gentlemen of the press, ladies and gentlemen. It is not a coincidence that we are all gathered here today for an occasion of this nature. Although much of it is entangled in an intellectual excursion that I'm aware will carry on for 2 days, I am indeed honored to be part of today's historic moment for reasons that will be highlighted here. As you may be aware, the old Oyo Empire was the largest and the most popular of the Yoruba kingdoms. At its height, it achieved prominence and extended beyond the shores of today's southwest Nigeria until its collapse and disintegration in the early years of the 19th century. Oyo ruled by great kings who exerted not only their political power over other large territories, but ensured that the people it reigned over adapted and adopted its ways of life. That is, virtually all Yoruba states which came under the powers of Oyo at some point find are overwhelming or are difficult to shed even up to this day. It is why in some Yoruba towns and as far into West Africa, Shango is represented in their kingship institution and celebrated in annual or periodic festival, or the town itself remains an appendage of the vestiges of Oyo itself. What Oyo did is reminiscent of the assimilation policy of the French, whereby each person may identify with a specific Yoruba group, but that identity is interlocked in Oyo assimilation policy. Is it therefore not a coincidence that we are all gathered here to identify with that empire and its rulers whose socio-cultural and political influence straddled the savannah below the bend of the river Niger? Secondly, behind the dominant powers of old Oyo was the Alaafin, who may have appeared very powerful, but shared such with a governing council popularly referred to as Oyo Mesi. Although this traditional arrangement may have been vital to create some sort of political balance, give administrative convenience, it often became a natural basis for antagonism. The 18th century was a period renowned for its continuous attempts by the Alaafins and Basharuns to depose one another, sometimes ending in fatal consequences. Beyond these unpleasant stories also lies gratifying ones, one of which was the survival of Oyo in its new abode and the continuity of the Alaafin institution up to this moment. Once again, therefore, it is not a coincidence that we are here to discuss, on the one hand, the resilience of an empire which has made outstanding contributions to world civilization, and on the other hand, celebrate the leadership of an institution, the Alaafin, which has witnessed change and continuity even in the midst of divergence, ups and downs in our evolutionary history as a nation and people. Born on October 15, 1938 at Ekoginye Compound, Alaafin, Oyo Town in the present day Oyo State, to Alaafin Raji Adeniran Adeyemi II and Olori Ibironke Adeyemi. Just like the Yoruba philosophical aphorism that says, of the old block. He is a descendant of generation of Alaafin who have shaped the course of not only Yoruba history, but history of the world at large. His grandfather, also an embodiment of royalty, charm, Alaafin Adeniran Adeyemi II was also an Alaafin who, like his father, exhibited substance and regalia that typified his imperial status. These royal sophistication and uncommon magnificence have been ceaselessly displayed by Alaafin Lamidi Adeyemi III since he ascended the throne of his fathers. I have taken ample time to provide the above and in very scant details the trajectory of events in our history and basically why we are here. Since the international conference is on the Alaafin Yoruba history, culture and political power relations, it will be interesting to know how much this historic agency of culture and tradition had influenced everyday life in Yoruba land and across the world since its founding about 5 centuries ago. This conference, I understand, have in our midst reputable and earlier career scholars who have come from far and wide to discuss variety of themes on Oyo history, such as the early history of Oyo, the archaeology and methodological issues, religious culture, rituals and festivals, military tradition, intergroup relations, socio-political issues, the Alaafin and the Mokdakeke question in Yoruba history, Oyo and the African diaspora, the colonial period in Oyo history, foreign policy and diplomacy, post-colonial era, among others. Such themes as these are relevant to contemporary African discourses, which have been redirecting attention to the restoration of African heritage as the contribution of the continent to the contemporary cultural renaissance across the globe. I therefore expect the discourses and deliberations here to focus more on the core elements of intracultural exchanges and other tangible and intangible influences between Oyo and its past and present neighbors, and how this could continue to foster national unity and reconciliation. I have no doubt that the task we have set out to carry out here will remain rewarding and counted as one of those defining moments in our recent history. Let me use this opportunity to inform this noble audience that the Center for Black Culture and International Understanding was established early 2009. It is affiliated with Institute for African Culture and International Understanding, Abeokuta, a UNESCO Category 2 institute. Believing in the modernization of African cultures from within, CBCIU is committed to cultural promotion for the grassroots level up and in cultural exchanges primarily within Nigeria, across West Africa, and the rest of the continent, and with the rest of the world. The CBCIU started as an archive with Uli and Georgina Bia's materials forming its nucleus. As such, CBCIU is also interested in and has been achieving a lot of contemporary Nigerian cultural production since 2009. We have formed partnership with Iwelewa House, situated at the University of Beirut, Germany, and through our U.S. office in Philadelphia, working on a partnership with the Smithsonian Institution in Washington, D.C. Our mission is simply to elevate Black culture by focusing on its recovery, preservation, promotion, and utilization of its enduring ways of being for the purposes of holistic development, appreciation, and international understanding. This has been our focus since 2009, in spite of obvious odds and challenges. May I state here that on January 9, 2019, the CBCIU will mark its 10th anniversary and wish to use this medium to request your honorable presence on this day. I have the singular honor, on behalf of the Center for Black Culture and International Understanding, of welcoming keynote speakers and all participants to this auspicious occasion, and it is my sincere hope that we all will be able to take back home the memories of this day as one of our noble contributions to the fruitful development of African culture, nay, Yoruba history. I would like to use this opportunity to thank the Vice Chancellor, Professor Dapo Ashaju, and the entire management and staff of Ajayi Crowther University of Oyo for extending its hands of friendship to us at the CBCIU. We emphasize more rewarding partnerships with you going forward. I wish to also express my heartfelt appreciation to our keynote speakers for finding it expedient to be here. It is my hope that we all will have a very rewarding intellectual engagement. I wish to also mention the support of all our partners, tertiary institutions, organizations, and personalities who assisted us in one way or the other. Our father, Igu Baba Yeye, and Alaafin of Oyo Oba Lamidi Olayiwola Adeyemi III, has been supportive to us at the CBCIU. That we are hosting this international conference in his honor is a testament of his abiding faith in us all through the years. We are indeed lucky to have a king in our lifetime who owes firmly to tradition and continues to manifest it in ways that enriches our understanding of Yoruba, past and present. Kábíyèsí, may your reign be long. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I thank you for your attention. May the good Lord bless you all.
Tí ilé bá sọ ni,
Abiosoni Awolaotiri. We are happy for the life of our Kabiyesi, who is big, strong, and reliable, not just in the Union Bank tradition, but is as solid as Rock of Gibraltar. Our Kabiyesi remains exceptional monarch, the builder of the greatest empire in the history of West Africa, the empire that lasted for more than 600 years, the empire that produced exceptional monarchs. When you look at the life of Kabiyesi, his great-grandfather was an Alaafin. His own father was an Alaafin. A man with a very large heart that, in spite of the challenges of history, he has chosen to accommodate all in his very large heart. Kabiyesi. Today is just the beginning of a new life. At 80, we pray that you are going to reach 100, beyond 100, and you'll be asking more for God to continue to give you good health, good children, because our father today has a tauku and is still producing twins. First set, second set, will produce more. Today is a very good day. I want to thank the chairman of this occasion, Dr. Leklare, for accepting to chair this event at a very short notice and for giving us handsome money to back it up to organize this event. I'm so grateful, Dr. Leklare. I want to appreciate the Vice Chancellor of this university, ably represented by his deputy. What we are having today at Ayikada University is at no cost to us. They have given us tremendous support. Without the management of this university, today will have been a more challenging exercise. I'm standing on protocol to recognize my teacher, Professor Toyin Falola, distinguished teaching professor at the University of Texas at Austin. The man who taught me ABC of history and who had the privilege of supervising my first degree projects and chose the project topic for my PhD. But before I could complete the PhD, he was already away to the United States. Another person is here, Professor Akim Damole. Akim Damole was the first person who gave me a teaching appointment at University of Ilorin way back 1982. I dearly acknowledge you. Today's occasion is the brainchild of the Center for Black Culture and International Understanding under the leadership of the former governor of Lagos State, former governor of Osun State, a prince of the people, a man who is highly cerebral, a soldier statesman, and Omoluabi Pataki, Prince Dr. Olagunsoye Oyinlola. It's a fully funded conference. We had our challenges, but we don't talk about challenges. We have triumphed. We have overcome. This is the first conference ever since the inception of university education in Nigeria in 1948 that an international conference or a national conference will be convened purposely on Alaafin in history. We must acknowledge and appreciate the consent of His Imperial Majesty for accepting that this conference should hold, because without his consent, we will not be where we are. Paula Gomez, Bose, the entire kitchen cabinet of the palace, we duly acknowledge you. My story is short. That we are happy that we are beginning another project. It is called Oyo Oral History Project, for which we have had the consent of the Alaafin himself. Oral History Project is a very big project that we can use to document not just the written form. Much of the oral speeches made by the Alaafin in the past, we need to have a repository, an oral archive of Alaafin in history. That project has commenced, and by the time we'll be having the 48th anniversary of Kabiyesi on 14th January 2019, we'll be making our maiden debut of that particular oral project. Secondly, the proceedings of this conference are already being edited because we have 60 full chapters submitted, full paper, and we have already commissioned an editorial team to make sure that the book is published by 14, to be out of the press by January 2nd, 2019. That by the time Kabiyesi will be celebrating the 48th anniversary, that book will be unfolded, presented to the public. I warmly welcome all of us, all professors, emeritus professors, young scholars, Professor Alaafin, my good friend, who will be celebrating Kabiyesi in Ibadan on the 20th of this month, and all our students. Once again, I'm very grateful for this beautiful afternoon. Thank you, and God bless.
Enriched by the various papers presented, by discussants here, eminent men of letters. When we are discussing the past, there's always a tendency for us to use the parameters we have in the present to discuss the past. That's why historians must be very careful. In one of the conceptual formulation of policy in Oyo Kingdom, the base of philosophy of life, of their life at that time, in political science, humanities, and other sciences, you must have a philosophy of life. Yourself as a person, so other leaders. Without a philosophy of life, you do not have a policy formulation. Without policy, go back to principle, the principle how that formulation will work. At that time, after policy, you get the program of action you intend to do. What Oyo give to the whole world is development of Christian cabinet system. George I and George II, who ruled England respectively, we are from Hanover. Hanover is one of the 30 confederacies that made up the German nation under Ottoman Bismarck. So, when the Tudor dynasty came to London, their Germanic race, they couldn't speak English, communicate effectively with their subjects. Arrangements was made that the kings who could not speak to his people should be represented in parliament by the party that had majority in parliament. By the way, if you are a student of English history or European history, as I've done, I've traversed through Lusaka, Bonu Karim Empire, Songhai Empire, Guinea Mali Empire, then Masa Musa, the Kankan. To realize, I want to take the step of our bearded historian here, that the Yorubas are really very sophisticated people right from time immemorial. Now, since it was an arrangement was made, in Britain, the cabinet system is not occur as a conscious formulation of policy. It is a matter of planetary expedient. Unlike the Yoruba, I will come to that. Now, arrangements was made that the party that had majority in parliament should represent the interests of the king in parliament. The theory and the wish were the two political parties in Britain, which metamorphosed into Labour and Conservative respectively in Britain. Wish and theory. Robert Walpole was the leader of the Bush party. He then represented the king in parliament. He practically appointed all his ministers and insisted that all of them must share the same opinion as himself. That began the collective responsibility of the cabinet system in Great Britain. That was 1740, but earlier on 1630, Alaafin of Oyo devised that. Devised for the Yoruba race a cabinet system. Commenting on that, Townsend, who came to the Tour Africa, said, the eyes, I'm quoting verbatim, when I speak before audience, before men of letters, I try to be, quote, a precision. Government that cannot be seriously controverted. He said, the highest excellence about the best form of government among the wise lies in separation of power to prevent their abuses. Saying that this nation, the Central African people, the Yoruba, had not only studied this out, but had reduced this into practice long before the wise set in America and before the Baron exerted to the Magna Carta in Great Britain. That was 1630. Now we also agree that what we gave to the world is a system of checks and balances. The Alaafin cannot be tyrannical, cannot be a despot. He says, I stand solidly on that principle that any Alaafin that try to be despotic will be have to go to sleep. If he freakish, because the Alaafin said, ask those standing army officials. There's there's no outfit that Alaafin used to try to his people. Like we are having the present government these days. The police, the army are not online. I'll give an example. In law, Atiba emphasizes the distinctive policy of Yoruba race, and act from him we derive Omo Jaye, the rule of law. Two brothers of the same mother of Atiba, or the wife of Atiba. One junior, another senior. We are giving land to farm. The elder had twice the size of the land given to his brother of the same mother. The brother developed his land, the other elder one was drinking about because very well in Georgia because he was a prince. He wanted to see the land of his brother. In the argument that ensured, fracas ensured, he killed his brother, and he didn't allow anybody to touch him. He is brought up to Atiba, Alaafin. He said, what do you do? There's a constitution. Take him to court. The Bason, the Agbaki, the Samu, Laguna, Asipa, and Laguna. To the next person, they tried it, and it was boasting before believing that it was a point. It was a valid. They reported to Atiba, said, well, the man confessed, what would you do? Don't kill him. He was killed. That underscore that Yoruba nation, right from inception, never tolerated that piece of power. If If Alaafin could do that to his son, you dare not go or transgress. I'm thinking our expert here, constitutional expert, historian, are saying that British constitution still remains